everyone, I'm Ying Zhang, the co-founder of Gensee AI. Gensee is an intelligent platform for agentic systems, providing automated testing, evaluation, optimizations, and launch of AI agents. Today, let us show you how to use Gensee to quickly productionize your AI application with an end-to-end example.
The AI application we use in this video is a travel planner web app that does two things: generating a travel plan based on user requirements and answering travel-related questions from users. Let's get started. We have built the front end of the application in Typescript. It contains a trip planning page and a chat box for Q&A. The front end calls a local backend through standard HTTP requests. The backend and the core of the application are two AI agents, one for itinerary planning and one for Q&A. We have written the first one using the Camel AI multi-agent framework and the latter with no framework and just Python. Both are quite primitive in the way that they have the basic functionalities but have not yet been tuned. This is a quite common stage for many individual developers and new AI teams. Now, let's see how we can leverage Gensee to test, optimize, and launch these AI agents. We use a Google account to sign up and log into Gensee. Now we are in, and you can see the left bar has a bunch of features. I'll go over how we could use them for our AI agents. First, let's deploy the itinerary planning agent to Gensee. In this case, all the application source code is in a GitHub repository. We can directly deploy the two agents by filling in the GitHub link here and specifying the directory containing this itinerary planning agent. The platform does a bunch of intelligent moves behind the scene, like installing dependent packages, identifying the entry point to the agent, identifying the inputs and outputs of the agent. If you see any error in the generated items, you can manually edit the content using this edit button. Now this itinerary planning agent has been deployed, we should test its correctness and effectiveness. Normally, we would need to manually come up with our test cases, but here, Gensee platform nicely provides automatically generated test cases catered to our agent. Of course, we can also write our own test inputs. Next, we can inspect the execution results in more detail in the Analyze tab. Here, we can see the overall results and a breakdown of what each step in the agent generates. At each step, we can also try another model or tool to see its effects right away. Now, let's say we are happier with this more advanced LLM model. We can click the Use Alternative Model button and see the new overall result. Now, we can either directly serve the agent with our manually overridden model by going to the Launch tab, or go through a more rigorous tilling process. For that, we need to define what it means for our itinerary planning agent to have higher quality. This is often case by case and honestly quite hard to come up with. The nice thing here is that Gensee can directly generate metrics for us based on our description. Let's say our task is generating a realistic travel plan according to the user needs, and our overall expectation is cultural sensitivity, timeline feasibility, and prompt adherence. Now we can see all the generated metrics. Of course, not all of them make sense or are as important. Let's delete the ones that we don't like. Now we have metrics defined, we can use them to optimize our agent. Here we can select the models we want Gensee to consider. Let's just use the default ones, as some other ones are a bit too expensive for our budget. For evaluation metrics, let's go with the default optimizing cost and latency as long as quality is within 90% of the baseline, and let's choose these generated metrics. We then need to select test cases for Gensee to use during the optimization. One caveat here is that the more we choose, the slower the optimization gets. So if you want to speed things up, don't choose too many test cases or models. Normally, you would click Start Optimization to kick off the optimization process, but since this could take a few minutes, let's skip it and go to an optimization run I've done previously. You can see different cards here, one for cost, one for latency, and one for quality. We can then select which one we want to use for the real deployment. Now we are in the Launch tab, and there are API integration scripts corresponding to the optimization profile we just chose. Since we wrote our front end in Typescript, let's choose the API in JavaScript and copy this piece of code. Now all we need to launch the first agent is done, and we can go back to our front end source code. What we need to do is to just replace the original front end code that calls the agent's entry point function with our copied API endpoint code, just like this. Note that we put the workflow ID and secret into a separate configuration file for better maintainability. Now, we have successfully deployed the first agent. We still have one more agent to deploy, the Q&A agent. This will just be repeating the same steps we just did, and let's skip all the details and directly jump to the Launch tab, as I've already deployed this agent before. Same thing, we copy the API endpoint code, go to the front end that calls this agent, and replace it with the API code. Finally, we can see our travel planner application in action. Let's launch the application on localhost. We can see this nice web interface. Let's try asking it to generate a travel plan for a UCSD graduate student who wants to go on a road trip for 7 days in the US. We hit the Generate button. Now, this is the step that triggers our planner agent, served on Gensee. The plan is generated now, and it looks quite good. Let's try the QA tab and ask a question about the plan. This triggers the QA agent served on Gensee. Now we can see the answer. That's the whole process of deploying, testing, optimizing, and launching your AI agent-backed application.